What is going on, guys? I'm Matt T. Vogt, and this is Let Me Talk to You, a podcast where I find business owners that are changing, growing, and evolving their area of industry. So today, I'm just going to be doing an episode with me and my producer, Murph.
Hi, everybody. Happy to be here. Happy to be him.
What I'm going to do is take a pause on our regularly scheduled program. And I'm going to kind of look back on what I've learned. Although it may be 3 episodes in, I'm going to take a look and see what I've pulled from each episode and really what I've learned from each session podcasting. So, but first, I do want to clarify something. On a post I made recently with Caitlin, yeah, I'm catching Murph off topic here. I just want to clarify this, man. When I say people are lazy and, people are fat and people are out of shape and, people spend too much money, it's all the truth, guys. Look, I mean, everyone can look at themselves in the mirror and hold themselves accountable. You're not going to like it, but people need to do it. So I am very, very well versed in health and nutrition. And I very well understand that there are some people that have disadvantages, but you cannot let your disadvantages stop you from achieving what you ultimately want to do and living a healthy lifestyle, because not living a healthy lifestyle is going to stunt your growth in all areas of life. And that's all I really need to say about that. So anyways, let me ask you this, Murph. Overall, what do you think of our project so far?
I mean, I'm not really willing to judge anything podcast-wise from the startup until it has at least 20 episodes. Do you know why I say that?
Yeah, that's the 1%, right?
That's basically where like 90% chance of you quitting is off the table at that point.
Right.
And it's kind of, this is why I'm excited to hear the things that you've learned. Because everybody wants to start a podcast. Everybody sees a person who's notable for something start a podcast and they're just like, oh, I can go do that. And it's like, well, you can't. But the thing about it is like, do you have an idea that is unique? It doesn't have to be original, but is it unique? And do you know what you're going to talk about? Do you know who you want to talk to? Do you know who you want to have an audience of? So like those things, when you asked me to come on and help with this, I was like, all right, let's take some time to really try to define what our game plan is. And if you had to ask me what I think of it at this point, well, we haven't hit the 20 episode benchmark. It's like I could say you've taken the points I gave you and you've really run with them, which makes me happy. Because you also know if you didn't, that you'd hear from me about it.
Oh, fuck yeah. There's no doubt about that. But well, and I mean, any feedback, in my opinion, is good feedback. So if you're literally looking to do something and somebody in front of you is a wealth of knowledge in that department, it's pretty stupid not to take his advice or her advice.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And it's because a lot of people have bigger egos than they do have goals that they really believe in. And that's kind of the sad thing. And it goes back to a lot of like, well, me and Andy actually talked about this. It was actually really cool because he and I had this conversation a couple months ago. And this is me giving you praise because it goes to the finer details that you just kind of described and I gave label to. There's a couple guys and they were looking to partner with someone on a podcast, but the other partner had to basically supply all the production stuff, the equipment, the editing, the time to get there and back. It was out in St. Charles, which for those of you who are local, St. Charles from South County is what, 40 minutes, 45 minutes?
Give or take.
30 maybe on a good day.
Exactly.
And it's like, you get there and you like hear their idea and it's like, well, it's a podcast and we're going to bring in like people, but the goal is to market a high ticket sales coaching program. And I'm just kind of like,
that sounds like shit to begin with.
It was funny because like Andy had put out like an episode of the podcast recently at this point. This was a few months ago. And he was like, I don't know if there's like something I hear these days that's more scummy than high ticket sales coaching. And so like when these guys pitched this idea to me, because they weren't going to pay me up front to do it, they're just like, hey, we'll bring around guests that will buy our program and then we'll cut you out a piece. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, I'm not working for free, dude.
No.
Yeah, no. You have to supply something, because if that would have just crashed, you'd be out.
Well, the thing about it was like, I then texted Andy and I go, is there any bigger red flag than high ticket sales coaching? He goes, no. And we had like a long conversation about it. And he reinforced what I said and what you, again, described a minute ago, which was everybody wants to podcast, but like, who has fucking anything to really talk about? If the entire premise of your podcast is to sell people a coaching program, you don't have a podcast. You have a sales funnel, and that's all you have.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And so when I tried to give them like free information and free advice and these other things, they kind of just like poo-pooed at it. And when I gave them examples of like, hey, you should listen to Andy Frisella. You should listen to Alex Hormozy. They can tell you all the things that you need to be doing to get this thing up and moving, even more than I can. And one of the guys was like, don't know who they are and don't care.
What a fucking idiot.
But that's the differentiating point right quick.
Right.
You take my advice and you actually do something with it. And for all those of you listening, I'm not some prolific podcast producer by any means. I'm a local guy in St. Louis, and I've worked at First Form. I've worked for certain media teams within that organization. I've produced probably, I don't know, close to 100 to 150 podcast episodes in the last 2 years. Like I've done some shit. So I'm probably the most experienced person he knows short of Andy's media team.
Oh, absolutely. Well, dude, if I set out to do something, I go to the closest person I know who I think has a good understanding of something, and I ask questions, right?
Yeah.
I try to educate myself. And it doesn't mean I stop just at you, but also it's the fact that most people, when they learn stuff, they don't put it into action.
No.
You know, it doesn't matter if I was asking a janitor how to clean a floor, or Mr. Clean came to life and I was fucking asking him himself. It's all the same. You know, you still got to put everything into action. And if I, for some reason, absorbed everything you said, I wanted to go to a different level, well, then I have to find somebody ahead of you, right? But you still have to follow that call to action. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to put everything into action. And that's where a lot of people struggle. And it's like earlier today, you came in and I had 2 Excel sheets just for the podcast. And you're like, oh, shit.
Mm-hmm.
You actually put a lot of thought into this.
Mm-hmm.
And by each one, it was name, company, title, date, time.
Just data.
Yeah, it's just random data, man. But it's all stuff that'll keep the podcast rolling. It's all stuff that'll keep it in line. And it all also makes for good content, because I can look, okay, well, the past 2 episodes we had this person, and they were in this industry. So let's shift it up. Instead of health and fitness, let's do, this guy does comic books. Let's see if this guy wants to come on, right?
Yep.
The whole premise of this podcast is legitimately just to learn about entrepreneurship.
Mm-hmm.
Learn everything you can, as much as you can, for everyone listening, right?
Yep.
So I think we got something good going here. It's been really fun.
And that's, I think, something that passes a threshold of legitimacy. I work in social media. I've coached social media, and it's something that I don't think a lot of those years ago any of us would have thought would be my thing. But at the same time, like, kind of like to talk a lot. For being such an introverted, like, stonery dude in a lot of capacities, like, my communication's my thing. So finding a social media platform allowed me to do that. And to me, I know I'm doing something right on social media, which to me, again, podcasting is a form of social media at this point. Like, it is a way for people to communicate ideas, values, to build platforms, to sell things, add revenue. Like, you can
100%.
it's just short of messaging and being able to at each other. But then, you can just do like live stream podcasts, whatever the case may be. And so to me, I know I'm doing something right if I hit 3 things. Number 1 is you have to be yourself.
100%.
We have worked in an industry which fitness, nutrition, and personal development. If you work for Andy, you work for Sal, you're going to work in those 3 industries at the exact same time.
1,000%.
It doesn't matter if you're in first form or S2 or any of the other shit that has to do with that stuff. And so with that, the thing about being yourself that I can antiquate to that is that Andy is probably the most legitimate person working in personal development today. Original, unique, has a voice that goes very far, isn't scripted, isn't corporate. Like, Andy is that guy. How many people do you see and that we know that try to imitate Andy?
1 million people.
And it's not just by saying motherfucker either.
Right.
Okay. Guys, you are your ultimate source of originality. Like, don't get me wrong. Good artists borrow, great artists steal. Originality is overrated. But you, and me, and anyone who comes on this show, if they were trying to be someone else, why wouldn't we just get the original?
Well, yeah, exactly. That's, I think I touched on that a little bit when I was talking with Caitlin. It's like, you're never going to be somebody else. If you're around other people, you can pick up their habits, you can pick up their traits, but ultimately how you play that character with those habits and traits, that's what makes every individual unique.
Mm-hmm.
Like, bro, I know some people that suits, ties all day. Every time I do a podcast, I'm going to be in a cutoff.
Yep.
It's my comfort.
Yeah.
And it's one of the other things I said when, in my first episode, it's like, I think the idea that sleeves, man, doesn't make you professional, right? What comes out of your mouth makes you professional. Granted, I know there's a time and place for it, right? But I can also sit here behind this camera, talking in this mic, talking with you, or talking with anyone else for that matter, and have a really good conversation that somebody can pick apart and build something off of, right? It's just who I am. It's because this is my comfort, and everyone has their own comfort, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when people try to stray away from who they actually are, that's when they lose. Well, I feel like that's when they lose charisma, their passion. They get confused because they really can't figure out, man, how do I replicate this guy? Or how do I replicate this girl? Or what am I doing? Even when people are acting,
mm-hmm.
they make the character their own, right?
Oh, they should.
No Joker is the same, right?
No.
Dude,
thankfully,
being authentic is one of the key things I've learned in podcasting. Like, and that's why when I go off on tangents all the time, or tirades, or whatever you want to call it, man, that's just because I'm passionate about stuff, right?
mm-hmm.
In certain increments, but some people don't do that.
Well, and it also depends. Like, the second thing that I pay attention to is what I'm creating valuable. So tangents can be very valuable. If, I've always seen, back when I did sales acquisition and really when it was to the rapport part of the conversation, I would use tangents to like have trapdoors is what I would call them. Basically, we're starting at a top level and we're trying to go down. We're trying to get somewhere is always what I say. And if I can teach someone something out of one of those tangents, if I can inspire them, or if I can entertain them in a way, make them laugh or smile, there's a very good chance that they will reciprocate with value too. And so, if you ever have such a straightforward conversation where you're not able to split off and you have to be stagnant and sterile about everything, you're probably having a bad conversation in the first place. But I think that's also the truth too, is that like, for example, you know, when we started the Zach and Pat show, this is something that, and for those of you who don't know, like Zach Vegas, he's my real estate agent, very good friend. Matt's been on a show. I produce a show. Pat Doyle, that's going to be another good buddy of ours, mortgage loan officer. I never did a podcast before the literal one we started. And the question that they didn't really have the answer to, they both asked me is like, so what do we talk about? Well, they both work in real estate. So I thought we were going to talk about real estate and mortgages and the market. Cause like, that's very specific.
That's boring.
Yeah. But at the same time, people who want to learn that, that's all they care about. The Bigger Pockets podcast, that motherfucker does numbers.
That's fair. I actually do love that podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger Pockets is great podcast. But they also have access to like everyone. But
now,
yeah, that's true. And you know, nonetheless, I understand where you're going with it.
And I mean, look at Andy. You know, Andy's. I don't really listen to the Q&AFs. Actually, I really don't listen to a lot of the personal development stuff anymore. It's not that I don't care. It's just not where my interests are.
Mm-hmm.
I love listening to the CTIs because to me, it's a news source and it's a pretty favorable to the people one, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
But the other thing is it's entertaining.
Oh yeah.
He cracks the most jokes on that shit. Him and DJ have such a
sure.
great dynamic together.
Oh yeah.
And the other guys who are in the office, like Madot cracks a joke now and again. You'll hear Jelly Joe. You know,
he includes everyone. That's the beauty of it.
You fall in love with the people there. So like tangents, a podcast, any conversation, are you being valuable? Are you teaching someone something? Are you inspiring them? Or are you entertaining them?
Well, yeah, exactly. Without a doubt. And
I think you've done that.
You know, I think I have too. And
Andrew Guest.
I can't wait to keep this rolling, dude.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I was thinking about it today. I'm like, man, I don't know the last time I actually, well, I don't know the last time I wanted to do something for free. You know what I mean? Or like, I don't know the last time I actually, other than, you know, doing stuff around the house, you know, you invest money in your house, you know, you make it better, you build it out, you know, but I took a lot of time, like making the studio, right? And then investing in this microphone and all that stuff.
Well, it's like, and I'm not free either. Like,
well, right, exactly.
Like a lot of people expect you to do media stuff for free. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not willing to make deals.
Well, right, of course.
But you can talk about that now because there are other people who have paid me for a whole year within 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Folks think they can sidestep that.
No.
Like buying the equipment. And if you don't want to produce everything, paying the producer, what has that taught you? I have one other point to make after that.
Paying a producer?
Everything. Just making investments in general, especially into this stuff.
Oh, dude. If you want to do this, you can either do it really cheap. And I was talking to Caitlin about it actually. She's like, Matt, she's like, that was so fucking fun. She's like, it really makes me want to do it. I'm like, well, Caitlin, you know, you got two options. I'm like, do or don't, right? I'm like, however, you know, you can either do it really cheap and still put out good content because that's all that at the end of the day, you know, the content is what matters. I could have the best mic. I could have the best producer. I could have everything Joe Rogan has. But if I'm not putting out good quality content that has some value to it, it's trash, right? It doesn't matter. It's not going to catch. But, you know, so I told her, you know, you could do it really good and cheap or really good
and polished.
And polished. That's the word. So, you know, and for me, I've had a podcast before for 5 seconds and we tried to use the equipment. I wasn't happy with it. You know, I knew what I wanted it to be. And so that's why after we recorded once, fuck that, upgrade the mic, upgrade this, upgrade that, you know, and that shit cost a lot of money. But after the first few episodes, Holy shit.
Yep.
Dude, your podcast quality is amazing. For your first episode, that's crazy.
Feels good to hear that, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Because it's time, it's effort, it's and it kind of justified, to me, it justified spending the money because in my head, I wanted great quality and I got the return for that money.
Yeah.
Not in currency, but in exactly what I wanted. Everyone out there knows exactly what I know. Highly well produced, high quality stuff. Like, it shows, man. So I feel like you got to invest in something fully. You got to be all in, and it just to what standard you want to do it. And I wanted to try to do it the very best of my abilities, and we're knocking it out of the park.
Yeah.
So,
and that kind of goes to my last thing of my hierarchy, which is, if you're going to be yourself and you're going to be valuable and you're going to have a standard, because you should be doing these things with the objective of doing them well. But the last thing is, are you having fun? And for a lot of people, when they do social media, they immediately look at it as transactional. Well, then your content's going to come off as transactional, and people aren't going to want to do anything with you because they know you expect something out of them. The thing about you having a higher level of equipment, delegating the duties to someone who specializes in it, and really just handling the things that you are good at. The thing about all that is that people, when they come through, it creates a network. It creates a social network. It creates an energy, an aura, and it lets people know that this isn't just so we can sit there and bullshit with nothing to do. It's that we have a specific goal in mind. We're going to talk about business. This is going to affect our businesses. This can get to a point where businesses want to advertise with you. This can get to a point where products can come to you and say, hey, we love what you're doing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You give us a shout once per episode. We'll give you product. We'll give you money. And it's up to you to have
like
that integrity.
Neurogum, right?
Yeah.
Ain't that what they did?
That's exactly what happened.
Like,
so
how did that even start?
Everybody in the world and their brother wants to be sponsored. You have to understand this, guys. Like, a sponsorship is a relationship. And it's something that we have just started to build with Neurogum over at the Zach and Pat show.
Right.
And so Zach is a disciple of all things Rogan. Literally within
That's funny.
It's very funny. He listened to over 23,000 minutes of Joe Rogan last year.
Holy shit.
Crazy, I know. So I'm pretty sure Neurogum has been something that Joe Rogan has mentioned a whole lot.
Right.
And so,
of course,
we had a guest on. It was Amy. I can't remember her last name, but like Amy, she's a badass real estate lady, Amy Hanna. And so Zach was just like subtly chewing a piece, and she goes, "Is that it? Is that the caffeine gum?" He goes, "Oh yeah, it's Neurogum. I have a pack upstairs too. I have multiple packs upstairs. Just saying, Neurogum, y'all are the shit." He goes, "It's Neurogum. It's got B vitamins and thiamine and blah blah blah. That's not what's in it, but the B vitamins are in there." He goes, "I'd love it if you'd sponsor the show." And I was like, "Yeah, we're going to mention you every show until you do, Neurogum." And Pat chimes in, Neurogum. And then I think Amy did too. She's like, Neurogum.
That's hilarious.
Well, and then we tagged them in it. And so Zach then got a DM from the actual like head of the company, like the CEO, like their Andy.
That's awesome.
And they got on like an hour-long phone call where all they did was basically bullshit about MMA and jiu-jitsu. This guy's a huge, I think his name's, I think it's Vince, maybe. I don't know. Ken? I think it's Ken. I don't know. I'll text him. I'll find out. But regardless, basically off of just like one piece of content that came off very genuine, very fun, and very loose, they sent us a box of shit. Probably about Kent. That's it. It's about probably half the size of your desk and maybe one of those slabs of wood less tall. There have to be probably 400 packs of Neurogum in there.
Holy shit.
We Fit Flavors. We had on Abby Lamb and Maddie Giannino, who is not related to any of the Gianninos we know. Which is
I was about to ask.
It's such a common name here, like nowhere else, but not the point. Well, they came over and like Pat has been on a fitness journey and Zach has always eaten Fit Flavors. And so like they sponsored the show for like 3 months. And because we were just like talking about them anyways.
Well, right, of course.
And that's the thing. Like,
it's natural.
Yes. People can tell when you're doing something to get paid. And so the thing about making it happen is like, I can even tell this even from like the First Form perspective, because when you deal with salespeople, one of the goals of those people is they want to represent the company on like that athlete or that sponsored trainer level. And I would always tell them, all right, look, number one, you got to build a great relationship with the company. It means, and I'm not just talking about First Form stuff at this point. I'm just like, if you really want to be sponsored by something, you got to be willing to do it for free.
1,000%.
Meaning the New Age hat that you're wearing. Guess
yeah.
That's free advertising. And I love those guys. You love those guys.
Oh my God. They're legitimately.
I don't even go to their clinic and I shout them out.
Really?
I go to Summit.
Oh yeah. I do remember that. Oh yeah. Well, dude, when somebody gives you such quality service,
mm-hmm.
they earned it. Mm-hmm. Right. And I mean, I talked about it in the last podcast and I feel like I talked about it in the podcast before that, but it's well deserved, right? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'll tell you exactly how this actually went down. The doctors tried to tell my dad that he needed a medication for diabetes. Wasn't a fan of that. I called bullshit on that. Actually, you know Adam Schaefer.
Yeah.
They tried to tell Adam Schaefer the same thing, and he looked into it, and then, he didn't need no fucking medication, dude. He just needed to lower a little things here, a little thing there, change his diet, fix the whole problem.
Usually that fixes most people's problems.
Yeah, but if you give someone a medication, it can literally force them to become diabetic, and that's the problem. So, long story short, I immediately text Rocky, and instant response, man. Said, hey, man, come in. You, anyone else, your family, come in. We'll get you taken care of, yada, yada. And his response that quick, because I know he's busy, but his response being that quick is what mattered to me, right?
Yep.
Especially in a situation where I'm looking for advice when I think the doctors did my dad wrong and it pertains to my dad. So, it even more so meaningful. It's not like I was just saying, hey, man, I want to get my blood work done. I actually had some passion behind it, right? So, kudos to him and kudos to that whole company.
But that's the thing though, is that you giving that praise, those honest testimonies, and you being willing to do it for free, and you then being willing to do it consistently and do it in an authentic way. Building that relationship that way is the best way to not just get sponsored, but to be valuable, to earn value.
Oh yeah.
To receive, you must give.
Absolutely.
And everyone thinks just because they buy a pair of shoes that Nike is going to sponsor them. You do not draw business for Nike. Okay. Nike's not going to sponsor you. Fortnite's not going to sponsor you just because you fucking tagged them in some shit. Build an audience, be notable for fucking doing something, show them off for free. Because here's the thing. Most people, when they start building an audience, I got offered to get sponsored by a coffee company one time. Very recently. And
right.
What do you think I said to them?
No.
Why do you think I said no?
Well, I'd assume it's because, first of all, you probably don't know a lot about the company. And even if you do or did, they may not have the values you're looking for in a company that you'd want to be sponsored by.
What coffee do I drink every morning?
You drink Omen coffee every time.
Not only is Omen owned by like one of my top 5 best friends, like in life right now, like that's not the point. It's not the fact he's my friend. It's not the fact he's my best friend. It's the best fucking coffee I could drink.
1,000%.
And I love giving them free I don't want to fucking advert. I don't want a sponsorship from Omen.
No.
I love giving them business because they do a fucking excellent job. Now, if they ever wanted to, I would gladly accept it. But if I accept the sponsorship from Joe Blow Coffee Company, and they were very friendly. They were very nice. Like, don't get me wrong. This coffee company was very cool. You guys, you ever watch this? I appreciate you reaching out to me. It was very sweet of you. But I just told them, hey, I have a coffee company of choice. I love giving them free word of mouth. It would be disingenuous for me to just sort of use your product and because I'm going to give them my money. I'm sorry.
What did we talk about not too long ago? It was the energy drink thing.
I was just thinking of that.
Right?
Yeah. So I'm going to keep a lot of labels out of this right now. But there's a thing about integrity and there's a thing about loyalty. So as far as energy drinks go, I'm a caffeine junkie, dude. You are too. You're drinking one right now. And it's like 9:00 at night.
Facts.
Like, I don't know how you're doing this.
I'll go to bed. Doesn't matter.
You say I'm a night owl. I'll be up later than you, and I stopped drinking caffeine like 7 hours ago. Okay, not the point.
Yeah, well, yeah.
I have a favorite energy drink that I will keep nameless right now. And when the conversation is integrity, I've actually said to Matt over here, I was like, my favorite energy drink could offer me a sponsorship and I wouldn't take it. Why did I say that?
Because it's not the company you stand with.
Correct. This company has not been poor to me. Actually, this company has been pretty cool to me. Like, I met their CEO out in Vegas last year.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's cool.
A guy who just was like the leader of their content creation team. And it's actually his birthday today, which is so crazy.
Oh, that's funny.
Dude, he's been a mentor to me from afar, and they're over in Chicago. And like, the people who work for this energy drink supplier are very cool people. They're very great. Their branding's awesome. Mm-hmm. But I have a relationship with a company that offers energy drinks. And that doesn't mean that I would seek a sponsorship from them either. It just says that, like, I care too much about my loyalty to that company, advertise their competitor, even if I like the competitor's product more.
I mean, that's fair.
It's not about money. It's not about free stuff. Like, that's what people think a podcast is supposed to be about. They make it about them and their pocketbook. And like, guys, if you're going to go out and create, like, you don't create for you create for an audience. And if you build that audience will invest in you. They'll become members. They'll pay like monthly to get like, exclusive podcasts because they love that shit. They help you build your own media company as long as you give them something that is, again, unique, individualized, valuable, and that you had fun creating. That fun bleeds over into their experience. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
You're 1,000% right. I mean, you have to be original, you have to care, and you have to have that plan. And dude, I mean, if you're doing all that, it's going to take off. It's the same thing as business, man.
Mm-hmm.
With loyalty to your people. Like, I have so many subs as far as like electricians, plumbers, painters, whatever. And you got to be loyal to them.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You scratch their back, they scratch yours, right? You know what I mean? It all works. You got to make them a family, for lack of a better term. And, when you start giving quality content and you be the individual you're supposed to be, you're going to elicit a reaction from those that are actually listening. And that's what we want, right? So it's like my friend Luke. You were sitting there holding your phone and you're like, Luke Baker. You're like, who is that? I'm like, oh, that's my buddy, and he went on to tell us, we're doing a good job and he's inspired and this, that, and the other. Well, it's not only great for me to hear, but I'm sure it's great for you to hear too. You know what I mean? But that means we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah.
We're getting a good response out of the people. Because when I originally started, I said, hey, man, if one person per episode pulls something from it and they find value in it and it helps them, we're going the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Every time I sit behind the mic, it's one person at a time. That's it. And if you have that mentality, it doesn't matter if you're podcasting. It doesn't matter if you're doing social media posts. It doesn't matter if you're contracting. It doesn't matter, if you're baking cookies like Taylor. It doesn't matter. If you work one item at a time, one person at a time, and you're putting all your effort into that specific thing, you're going to get the value. You're going to get the return. You're going to get everything you hope for back.
Yep. And guys, like, you know, you got to think of it exactly in the terms that Matt just said. I have to give examples. Most people, this is a problem, like with them validating themselves, they don't give examples. Like you have to reference something. The figure that Matt talked about earlier, that 20 marked episode, like when we were producing the Zach and Pat show, it was like everything to us to get to like 20 episodes. It's like we did 2 a week, and it was just like we would just sit there. We still do to this day. Like, you know, we'll sit there in Zach's office upstairs, which we're now moving the studio downstairs, and you know, to them and even me, I was like, hey, 20 episodes, and there's no backing out then. And it felt like it took forever to get there.
Oh yeah.
Well, we just put out our 68th episode literally today.
That's wild.
It's building a house, guys. Like you got to have a foundation. You got to put bricks on bricks, and you have to do it just one at a time. And if you rush the process, your house is going to look like shit. And if you do it for anything other than to build an audience and actually give that audience credible value, then they're not going to stick around. They're going to go somewhere else. Because, like, you want to talk about health and fitness? Andrew Huberman, he's also out there.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about entrepreneurship? Andy Frisella, he's out there. You want to talk about news and politics? Tim Pool's out there. Ben Shapiro's out there. So, like, I'm not saying compare yourself to those people. I'm saying take something from those people. They did it before you. You have to, like, you don't have to mimic what they do or how they do something, but like figure out what works and what doesn't. Make it about them. Don't make it about you.
All right, guys. Well, quick, fast, easy episode. Just wanted to go over not only what I have learned, but what Murph has taught me, kind of what Murph has built for himself and what value he has supplied me, and then everything in between. So, guys, I know it's a little different episode today, but next Friday we will be back and we'll be having another entrepreneur in here. Hopefully you guys liked it. Hopefully you're liking, following, and sharing. Hopefully you guys are learning something from this. Guys, and again, I have a great time doing this. And Murph, as always, thanks for letting me talk to you.
I mean, someone's got to let you.
Amen. The dogs don't listen.
Fuck no, they don't.
Adios.